Good evening. Welcome to Live United. Last week's show featured Joy's Network talking about cancer awareness in terms of breast cancer and liver awareness. October is also another awareness month. It is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I am pleased to have with me today Robin Christofferson. Robin is with the Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. Thank you for being with us, Robin.
Thanks for having me.
Robin, I know you're doing some incredible work out there and offer multiple programs. And I'm excited to have you here because these are critical need programs that we have. We are well aware that domestic violence, and I hope the public is aware of this, that domestic violence is an ongoing issue that we face in society, and that when people get under stress, as they may in some of these current economic times, we see an actual trend for increase in domestic violence. So I appreciate that you're here to talk about the issue and to share a little bit about the history of the Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention.
Thank you. Well, a lot of what you said is true about domestic violence and more. And, hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about it. So MCVP, as we're going by now, so people don't have to say Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. I'm not sure if it's easier or not, was founded in 1978, so we're in our 36th year of operation. We had our 35th anniversary last year. And we started off very grassroots, as many of the organizations that do this work, which many of them are coming up on their 35th and 40th anniversaries, because it followed on the heels of the feminist movement and the victims' rights movement. They all kind of happened together, and that formed the battered women's movement, where a lot of realization started to happen of what was really going on behind closed doors, privately in the homes of many families in the United States and, of course, internationally, we know now. There was a New Hampshire Violence Against Women survey done in 2007. Now, I realize it's 7 years old, but that kind of New Hampshire specific data is hard to come by because it costs a lot of money to do those sort of surveys, and it was a large sampling for the population of New Hampshire, and it was a collaborative project of the University of New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Department of Public Health Services, and then our state coalition, which is the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, which we are a member program of, as we are Monadnock United Way agency. And it found that nearly 1 in 4 women in New Hampshire has been sexually assaulted. At least a third of New Hampshire women have been the victim of a physical assault by an intimate partner, and more than half of all women in our state have experienced sexual and or physical assault over the course of their lifetime. So this is not a small percentage of our population. For those of you who like social math or who think in pictures, which I do, intimate partner violence numbers, the number of females victims of intimate partner violence in New Hampshire is greater than the population of Manchester and Concord combined by almost 14,000. And sexual assault numbers, the number of women who have been the victim of a sexual assault could fill Fenway Park more than 3 times. So this is an issue in New Hampshire as it is in the rest of the U.S. We know we have the National Intimate and Sexual Violence Partner Survey that's done by the Centers for Disease Control. And so their numbers are similar to what we found in New Hampshire, although some of New Hampshire's numbers were a little bit higher in 2007. So as we, in the political arena, we like to say, as New Hampshire, so goes the nation. In this case, unfortunately, as New Hampshire goes, is a little bit more than some of the national statistics. So is it a problem here? It is.
And it sounds like this started as a grassroots movement, really addressing around women. But I know you do more than that because you're also providing educational services that reach out to men. You have the women's shelter, you have the education programs you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit about the services you're providing to really address this issue?
So one of the things that we do know is that men can be victimized, as can women. The percentage so far from what we know from all of these national, international, and New Hampshire-specific surveys is that it is a lower percentage of victimization that men experience. However, it still happens, so we do serve men. About 10% of our client services are for men, and we certainly do prevention education programs with the whole population, the whole community, and teens, tweens, and children that are both genders. So we really are trying to work on the prevention end, and Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention has been doing prevention work really in earnest since the 1994, I would say. And so we were forerunners in doing that work, certainly in New Hampshire and nationally. Now there are a lot of state coalitions and a lot of domestic and sexual violence crisis centers who are also adding prevention education programs to their menu of services. The programs that we are asked for funding and were allocated funding for 2015 from the Monadnock United Way specifically were for our shelter services, which is for women and children. We are also had asked for funding for our prevention programs, healthy relationships workshops for tweens, and then teen dating violence prevention programs for tweens and teens, and then also our child sexual abuse prevention program, which is a model program from Vermont. Vermont Prevent Child Abuse is using the same program, and it's called Care for Kids and Nurturing Healthy Sexual Development, and that's for 3 to 8-year-olds, so pre-K through 2nd grade.
I really want to highlight that proactive piece that you're undertaking, working with these, and I believe with the Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Program, that you're working with parents.
The program mandates that. So we can't go in and just work with the children. First of all, that would feel very ethically wrong and morally wrong because ages 3 to 8, adults are protecting children. That's their job. And so while the nurturing healthy sexual development piece works directly with the children, the adult piece really helps the adults to understand that in New Hampshire we have an excellent child abuse and neglect reporting law. It's excellent. It's one of the best. It's just that not everyone knows how to use it properly, and not everyone knows what happens when you use that. And then, even going upstream from that, what steps and measures can you take as an adult to protect that child? So hopefully you never have to make that report. What are some of the warning signs that a child may be, being groomed for sexual abuse? Or what, if there's some behavior going on in your peers in where you're working, because as we know, this happens typically at the hands of somebody that the child knows.
And that's very true, that it does happen generally with someone that the person knows. And I know that it's challenging sometimes to get parents involved in a group like that. And I really want people to hear out there that this is really an educational piece. It's for you to be proactive. As a citizen out there, it may not be an issue that you're seeing in your own life, but you still have a responsibility to other people's children and to other citizens here in the community. So this is really an opportunity for people to be well educated, to know what the resources are out there, to know what to do if they are seeing something unusual going on, and to really be part of that prevention and potentially protecting the welfare of a child.
Right.
So that program is critical. And then you're going to the healthy relationships, teen dating. So you're covering the next sort of age group in there. An important one, again, if we're going to break that cycle of domestic violence in their lives in the future. And I know that there's been a lot of data that's been collected that talks about that there's been a lot more teen dating violence in that age group. And so that's another critical service being provided. Now, is that done through the schools primarily?
Primarily through schools. I mean, we'll go wherever we're invited, and we certainly proactively try to recruit other venues. School tends to be the captive audience, and there, in New Hampshire, there is a framework for curriculum, and so some of the prevention work needs to be done. And school counselors or some of the teachers who get tasked with that may or may not feel comfortable with the subject. And that's fine because we're the experts, so we hope that they bring us in so that we can really, in a short period of time, go into some more detail with some really specific information that's good, timely information for the teens and tweens and for the adults. I mean, the teacher stays in the room. That's part of the deal, and they have to have somebody from the school stays and listens, and that is the best way to have it because then the adult who's going to support that teen or tween, again, there's some support that needs to happen from the adults in their lives to either get the help they need or to understand that what's happening to them is actually abusive behavior. A lot of mixed messages out there for teens and tweens as to what constitutes a healthy relationship. You know, there have been some very popular series of books and movies that really embody an unhealthy relationship, and they were wildly popular. In fact, some I'm not remembering. It's all about the werewolves and what was the name of the? I didn't read it because yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'll think of it.
Good, because it's not coming to my
Twilight.
mind. But Twilight, all of that whole series, really unhealthy relationships that are being shown as romantic and aspirational. And so some crisis center programs in the United States developed prevention programming around the Twilight series. You know, we use a Washington State program that's called In Their Shoes, that we have an adult model and the teen model that actually takes them through scenarios so that they experience what it's like to be in the shoes of the person who may be experiencing the abuse, a teenager. And there are, you know, 5 or 6 different scenarios. And so it gets people up and moving, but it also really helps people to understand what's going on with teens in these relationships and what might happen when they reach out for help. Now, is the adult meaning to give a negative message or a mixed message or thinking this is no big deal? No, they're not. They want to help kids. So this helps them to understand what that little red flag might be that a teen or a tween might give out that might not seem important, because typically they're not going to go, hey, I'm over here, help me. I think I'm in an abusive relationship. You know, they give out little snippets of information that then, you know, might trigger something for the adult if they're educated.
So we have the prevention side that you're helping to serve, but we also have an intervention side.
Yeah, we haven't done the prevention so well yet that we don't need that. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Someday we don't need our intervention crisis services because we've done our prevention work so well. So far, we're not there yet.
But you're working towards that.
We're working
so
towards
if a
it.
person was in need of intervention services, what do you have available to
So
them?
the emergency shelter, so that's accessible 24 hours a day, as is our crisis line, one of our, you know, most widely used programs and services is our 24-hour crisis line, and it's one of the mandated core services that we have to have if we're a member of our New Hampshire State Coalition. And then we do court advocacy. We do what we call peer counseling. It's non-therapeutic, where, you know, so even though some of the ways that we speak with and listen to the people that we work with might have some roots in, you know, some therapy and psychology, that's not what we are. We're peer advocates. So even if somebody had that degree when they're working as a crisis center advocate, we look at it very much as a peer relationship. Again, the empowerment model is what we're using. As long as it's legal and it's not violent towards another person, then whatever choice the person, the survivor that comes to us for services makes, we're going to support them in that. And sometimes that's staying in the abusive relationship. Hard for people to understand because outsiders have sort of set the gold standard as, well, you get them out of the abusive relationship. That's the end goal. That's the impact we want to have. And that isn't necessarily what people want. They want to have the kindness, loving, caring, you know, family or relationship back. They also may not be safe to do that yet. As we know, when we hear, you know, horrific stories about domestic violence-related homicides and sometimes, you know, ensuing suicides, that's often when someone has left. So without proper safety planning, that's another program that we do, and without, you know, some thoughtfulness about that move, it can have really bad results. So maybe the gold standard for outsiders, but not always the gold standard internally for the work we do. It's
Well,
nuanced.
and I'm not even sure it's so much a standard,
Yeah.
it's a reality.
Yeah.
Lots of times I know people are not in a financial situation, or there may be children involved.
right.
There's lots of different factors that come into play with this. I know also that you're doing some financial literacy work, trying to develop that financial stability with people that do enter into the shelter. So it sounds like you're trying to work through safety protocols with them through that financial piece, and really making sure their needs, or basic needs, are met, so that perhaps if they do want to make that move, they can do that and do it safely.
And people that come into shelter are going through a sort of a self-development, self-awareness program. So we have sessions on boundaries, healthy boundaries. We have sessions on conflict resolution. We have, financial literacy. We use the Allstate Foundation model, which, we've talked about, Kelly, where Allstate Foundation, one of their initiatives is to work specifically with domestic violence survivors on financial literacy, and they've created a curriculum, and we use parts of that. And we also use it with people who aren't in shelter, but that is part of the programming that we do, because the shelter is not just a roof with electricity and heat and food. It is also a program. There's a programmatic piece to it. So people who are staying there any longer than a very short stay, and we used to have more short stays. The transition in shelter programs and services is that people are staying longer because housing, affordable housing, is much less available, and it's a big move when people move, especially with children, and all of a sudden they're uprooted. Perhaps they've been unable to keep any employment that they had because of fleeing. So it's a process to get back to being independent.
What do you really, we mentioned at the top of the show that it's Awareness Month.
Yes.
It's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. What do you want people to really know out there?
Well, we have a whole calendar of events, so if you go to our Facebook page, or I'm not a tweeter, but we do have a Twitter account, so you can follow us on Twitter, and it's at MCVP New Hampshire. So we'll be posting, like I have a little ham sandwich in my pocket, Harmony, our education and outreach coordinator, will be doing some tweets on what we're doing. And one of the first things that we're doing, I'm going to just highlight some of the activities, but we have something for every day of the month, one of which is, contribute to the Monadnock United Way, because it will help MCVP and a lot of other really wonderful programming. So this Wednesday, the 8th, we'll be at the River Center in Peterborough. So we're doing a series sort of based on this idea of coffee and conversation. Been a lot of stuff in the media lately about domestic violence, NFL, and other things. So people may have some questions. So we'll be there from 1 to 3 at the River Center in Peterborough on Wednesday the 8th for coffee and conversation. We'll provide the coffee and some goodies, and hopefully some conversation will bubble up. And then on Wednesday, the 22nd, we'll be at the Greater Keene Chamber of Commerce in their conference room for, again, coffee and conversation, 9 to 11 a.m. this time. The week of the 20th in October, we have a top secret project. I'm so excited about this. So it's going to be an unveiling, so I can't give you details, but it's been with a project with the Cheshire County Sheriff's Department. It's been funded by the Verizon Foundation, and we're hoping to unveil it that week. I don't have the exact day yet, but it was actually the idea of Sheriff Eli Rivera. He approached me. So I'm very excited about this project, so look for that. We'll be posting the specifics on that. And then on Thursday, sort of winding up Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Thursday the 30th, we will be at the Keene Unitarian Universalist Church, which we did this last year. Will be a drop-in lunch from 11 to 1, and we will have the silent witnesses. So that people who haven't seen the silent witnesses, they are housed at our State Attorney General's office, and it's a national project. They are silhouettes of domestic violence-related homicide victims. And it has a plaque on them, and it tells a little brief story about them. We don't get all of them, but we get a few of them. And we have a gallery walk in the community room at the Unitarian Church where people can walk around and witness the silent witnesses, which is, remember my story, remember not my name, was kind of the mission of that national project that was started a number of years ago, and we have them in New Hampshire. So that will be a drop-in lunch, and we'll be providing a light lunch, and so people are welcome to drop in, and there'll be more specific details, again, on our Facebook page and on our Twitter account.
Well, that sounds exciting, and it sounds like it's going to be interesting, something innovative and new for the Monadnock region. And I'm sure with all the good work you do that it's going to be something that really addresses this need. Now, if people wanted to volunteer or be involved somehow, how could they be involved with really supporting the MCVP?
Well, we look for all sorts of volunteers. I think in the photo montage that you're going to see, you'll see a couple of Days of Caring photos. So we always are opting into the United Way Day of Caring project. We've had folks from CNS. We've had folks from EIM. We've had folks from Liberty Mutual. We've had folks from Clark Mortensen. I mean, I can't, we do it every year. And they come to the shelter usually because, we're in the basement of the courthouse where we're county tenants, so the maintenance of the building is kind of done by the county. But the shelter, we always have a project, whether it's inside painting or outside yard work, and that's been wonderful. So that's one of the ways that people can volunteer. And that's a kind of people who are looking for, I've got a day, my company's going to support this and I can opt in and then I'm done. People who are looking for a longer term volunteer opportunity can take our training. It's about 40 hours and we're offering it anywhere from 2 to 3 times a year now. Jan, our direct services coordinator, has really tried to make that more available so that we get more interns from colleges, which we do from Keene State College, Franklin Pierce University, and Antioch. But anyone can take that training, and then that allows them to have privileged communication through the state statute on domestic violence, which is required for us to then allow you actually to work directly with the people that we serve. So that's a wonderful opportunity. We have a woman, Joanne Matthews, and she's going to be really angry with me that I've mentioned her name, who's been a volunteer for us now for 26 years.
Wow.
And then Kim Schmidl-Gagney from Keene State College, who's been a volunteer now for almost 25. She's right on the coattails of Joanne. And so some people really, it's just their thing, and it's very rewarding for them. And then other people will do it for 2 or 3 years and then, find something else to do, and we welcome the Joannes and the Kims and the other folks who are looking for something. But it is a commitment, the 40-hour training. But then you're really well trained and you feel confident to help us with the crisis line or help us in the office.
Now, do you have any needs for the shelter in terms of items that people can donate?
Always, always, always need cleaning products, paper towels, toilet paper. Those things we always need. New twin sheets or really almost new, with, I don't know, everyone who runs shelter understands the bed bug scare. So our whole, taking used linens and mattresses has kind of gone by because it's very expensive to have a bed bug cleanup, and it's not anything about being dirty. It's a major health concern everywhere. Yeah, new twin sheets we're always looking for, but cleaning supplies and paper products always need those. And then the others come and go. We've had a great relationship with Cheshire Quilters Guild, and they've made us lovely throws, little small quilts, and pillowcases. So we have lots of the really nice kind of customized, shall we say, pillowcases that we hand out to, and the kids really at the shelter get a kick out of them because they have some juvenile prints and things that they use, so they get their own pillowcase that's theirs.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Some great work going on, and I know you need to leave the show here, and we're going to share a little bit some of the great work you're doing. We're going to see some pictures related to the Walk a Mile in her shoes and the Day of Caring, and I think your 35th
There's some
anniversary.
35th anniversary photos. There's some, we have Sexual Violence Awareness Month, which is April, when we have Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, but there are also, we have some staff photos taken where, there's a national theme every year with Sexual Assault Awareness Month, as there is with Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so sometimes we take photos. Today was Wear Purple Day, which clearly I forgot, but I've got I was worried about what I was wearing to come on the show and forgot my purple shirt, but I have purple ribbon on. So yeah, it's a whole, it's a lot of different things. A lot of Walk a Mile photos are the great photos. People really can, kind of get into looking at those photos because they're very demonstrative of what's going on.
They sure are.
Yeah.
And, I want to really highlight that you're really living united because you're giving, you've got volunteers, people have an opportunity to advocate through you and to really take advantage of the child sexual abuse program that you're offering and to become those advocates and also to volunteer and be trained to provide advocacy for people. And as you mentioned, this is something that remains an issue here in New Hampshire as well as the rest of the country. And we need people providing advocacy, because one thing I do know is that this is one of the programs that continues to have cuts that come down through, whether it's at a state or a federal level. And, a lot of programs are challenged. And this is a good example of something that doesn't go away. And we continue to have to do awareness months to bring attention to it, to make sure we sustain it and continue to address this need.
Thanks. Well, if I may leave you, I'd like to at least get some of our clients' words out there in public.
That would be wonderful.
And having survivors come sometimes doesn't work, so I'll leave with a couple of those, because I know you were gracefully exiting me off the show, as I hope to get a phone call. So I would not be sitting here today if it was not for the help and support of MCVP. They have and continue to help us in so many ways. I would not be a survivor of domestic violence without their ongoing support. They are always there to talk and support me when I need it. They have so many wonderful connections within the community. If they cannot help themselves, they know where and who can help. This one's particularly compelling. I was a young mother, trapped by the emotional and physical abuse of a classic abuser. I no longer consider myself a victim, but instead as a survivor. From the 24-hour support phone line, to having an advocate by my side in court, to the support groups after breaking free of an abusive relationship, MCVP saved my life. If it weren't for this organization, my daughter and I would either still be being abused or we wouldn't be alive. And then I like to then end with a couple of prevention, because I think people think that that's sort of the more hopeful side of things, and we do hope someday our prevention efforts are so wonderful that we don't need intervention efforts anymore. I liked the Teen Relationship Violence Program. It made me really think about all my relationships, and I realized that my friend is in an abusive relationship now, and I know how to help her. This program is very important for teenagers. When I was in an abusive relationship before this program, I kept it to myself. Now I know how to get help.
Well, Robin, I want to thank you for joining us, and I'm asking the audience to stay with us, because we're actually going to roll some pictures here and information about how to reach out to you.
Yes.
If you are someone in need of your services, folks can contact you, and that information will be coming up on the screen as we're rolling pictures that share some of the great work that you're doing. Want to remind people that they can get involved, and also just want to really thank you for the work that you do out there.
Well,
you're a
thank you.
super partner, and it is critical in meeting a need here in the Monadnock region, and I want to encourage people to get involved. So while we let Robin make her quick escape, because she's got to go on to other things, we're going to roll some pictures for you. So stay with us.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yep. So audience, as you can see, MCVP is doing some incredible work out there, whether it's walk a mile in her shoes, you're seeing volunteers here, you're seeing them involved with the Pumpkin Festival and some of the interesting work that they do. We see Ken Ju up here, who volunteers time and is very involved with this effort. So, we're encouraging you to get out there, to volunteer for MCVP, just like these folks that you're seeing here. Get involved with their educational programs. As a parent, you can participate in their child sexual abuse prevention program. As a teenager, you can be part of the healthy relationships and preventing teen dating violence by participating in those groups. And finally, if you're someone in need, you can reach out through their 24-hour hotline or seek services through their shelter service. You can also see here through the pictures that you're viewing right now that they have a need not only for those volunteers, but they have a need for you to give and to be an advocate. And they provide that training for you to be an advocate for these women and children and families. And as Robin mentioned during the show, 10% of the population now is men who may be in need of those services. So get involved. Be part of the Live United. You can also donate through the Monadnock United Way campaign. Robin mentioned that. When you're donating to MUW and the United Way, those go out, that money stays here in the Monadnock region and goes out to the services here in the Monadnock region, MCVP being one of those services. So get that information, get involved, be part of the Live United theme, and be part of the community. If you're living here, if you're working here, if you're playing here, it's an opportunity to make a difference again in people's lives. I want to remind you to live united, and if you need services, emergency services related to domestic violence, to reach out through the MCVP hotline or to contact the United Way, and we will be happy through our phone number and helpline to connect you to that service. You can also dial 211, which is a statewide and national line that you can dial to seek services. So just remember that 211 number. If it is an emergency situation, we always recommend that you dial 911 prior to calling for help in referral through 211. I want to thank you for joining us. Encourage you to get involved in the activities that Robin talked about, as it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Put your purple on, get out there, be involved, and live united. Thanks for joining us.